Hello everyone and welcome to what I'm going to go ahead and call episode 1 of the Expedition Revival. Let me step in here. Yeah, that seat's getting a little... Seat's still comfortable, but the cushion's kind of... It's like this one here. It's all stiff and it's not all nice and soft. I'm going to call this episode 1 of the Expedition Revival. As you can see, I've got a lot taken apart. So I had made a video a while back about, just introducing this to the channel, to the vehicle fleet, things like that. So what I'm doing now is getting everything stripped down as far as I know I need to go. And then we'll start putting everything back together and refresh it. So in case you didn't watch that one video, essentially what's wrong with this thing at the moment, the biggest thing is cosmetic stuff. So we've got, seat cushions or covers on the lower are definitely bad. We'll probably get to the uppers later because they're not in the best shape. But seat covers are not cheap. Two-tone leather, man, that's expensive. I have put in an inquiry with Richmond Auto Upholstery to see if they make these lower covers for the rear in this two-tone configuration. I have the center console out because it is disgusting and it's going to get disassembled and cleaned, but I'm going to haul this over to the shop and take it apart there. I've got the shifter back there. It's going to be disassembled and cleaned because it's gross. There's the instrument cluster. And then, there's all sorts of other trim and stuff. That's some of the seat controls for the driver's side. We have some more miscellaneous trim down there. I've got the passenger and the driver's seats disconnected, and we're going to be replacing the carpet for certain. So all that's going to be done. The radio needs to be changed because whoever put this in was an idiot, and they didn't do a very good job, and the radio they picked was the most Chinese of all Chinese radios. So, you can probably see right there all those purple or pink wire splices? Yeah, that's not supposed to be like that. That is not a professional job. I don't care who you are. If you think that's professional, then you're wrong. But anyway, on top of that, this silver trim here, this is all part of the dash. It goes around back in the steering wheel and stuff there and behind where the airbag's at. That entire dash is going to come out because there's some scuff marks and stuff on it, like right there. It's going to get painted. This center console has some scratches and stuff on it. It's going to get painted. The other side over here is worse, So all that's going to get fixed, cleaned up, repaired. There's some other miscellaneous trim pieces that need to be cleaned and or replaced. So all of that is what I'm going to be working on. So in this video, we're going to get this taken apart, cleaned, and painted, and we're going to get that painted. And once all that is done, then we can move on to something else, probably be in another video. I don't want to make these too terribly long. So I've got some trim paint on order. I just got an email a few minutes ago. They had shipped it. So until that gets here, I'm just stuck getting stuff out, cleaning it. Not a big deal. I also ordered some stuff for the climate-controlled seats, so we'll be doing that. Seat module, there's a connector that I got to replace, a whole bunch of other stuff. So there's plenty to do on this. But for right now, let's go get this in the shop where we're out of the wind, because it's pretty windy today, and we'll go over getting it apart. All right, well, before I haul this out of here, I probably ought to tell you how to get it apart. Taking this thing out of here is not difficult. The hardest part is getting the shift cable there disconnected from the shifter. There's one down here and one on the other side, but there's 4 bolts that go into the side of this on the bottom and hold it over in that area. So to get the entire console loose, you do that. And then the connectors, of course, they're self-explanatory. You disconnect them. And then for the shifter, and I don't know if I can show it on camera now. Let me reach back here and grab it. Oh, it's sticky. All right, so essentially with the shifter, what you have to do is the cable comes in here, right? So what you want to do is see if I can I don't know if I can show you on this or not. Okay, so right there is that little stud. That is where the circular end of that shift cable snaps onto. So, and it would be, this is how it would sit. So on the driver's side, once you get it unbolted and stuff, and you get a few things disconnected, all you have to do is, I had originally disconnected these clamps and started raising this up, which it works out because I have to clean all this anyway and pull stuff like that out because that's part of the chrome that goes around the top. But to disconnect the shift cable from the shifter, you have to pop it off of there, and then the cable just pulls out of that little holder there. Now, be sure that you have this in park, because when you disconnect the shifter and the shift cable, you've also disabled the brake interlock, because usually you can't shift it into gear unless you're depressing the brake and the key is on. And if you do this and you disconnect the transmission from the shifter, I believe there's nothing holding that in place from dropping it into gear. You shouldn't have to worry about it. I think you'd have to yank on that cable fairly hard to pop it in and out of gear, but just be mindful of that, and just be careful when you're taking this thing apart. All right, with the console professionally mounted in the shop, we can start taking it apart. Now, it should be fairly simple, but to be fair and to be honest with you guys, I have never disassembled one of these, but it shouldn't be too bad. I've kind of looked it over. We'll start taking stuff loose and see how it goes. So I know for a fact that there are some 7mm bolts here. There's 4 of them, 2 here and then 2 back here. So we'll go ahead and remove those. All right, I'm still looking it over, but I did discover that there are 2 more screws buried back here and here, and I removed them. They're the same screws that go up here, or up here, I guess. That's what you can see. So what I'm trying to do now, and I'll show you guys when I get it figured out, I'm trying to get these sides off first. So what I'm thinking is I'll come back here and try and get this panel off, and that might reveal some more screws, because I think the linchpin of this whole console is this center, I don't know what you would call it. There's a word for it, I can't remember what it is, but this thing right here, this needs to get out of the way, and I think there's more screws hidden. But I'm just looking it over, so I'll bring you guys back when I figure out what's going on for sure. All right, making good progress. The cup holders come up like that and pop out. There are 2 7mm headed screws here, but here's the interesting thing. This back panel comes straight out, as you can see, but there's 2 screws right up here. You'll never guess what size of socket you need to get them out. You'll need, if I can, 7/32. These are the little screws right here. And you might think that's a weird size, and you would be right. That is a very, very weird size. And I've tried the metric sockets. None of them fit. It is a 7/32, and I do not understand why. On the Super Duties, what they like to do, Ford, is hold the speakers in with, I think, 9/32 headed screws. I don't ask why. That's beyond me. So I've also been noticing that the more I get in here, whoever was in here, they really just did make a mess of this, and they didn't clean it very well. May not have realized it dropped down in here, whatever they spilled. So I'm going to get all this disconnected, and then we can keep going, because I see 1, 2 more screws right there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a mostly completely disassembled center console. The only thing I have left to do is remove that screw there, corresponding screw on the other side, and pull that out, and then we'll just be left with the base and the side panels. Now, I finally figured out how to get the side panels off. There are 2 screws up here that hold everything on, and it should just pull up like this. So remove all the screws that I showed you earlier, and these final 2 are hidden right here. okay, but they are hidden beneath this piece of trim that would sit right here. And then the console lid, the hinge, bolts or screws on back here. I don't think you would have to remove it to remove the rest of this. I think this will come out with the console lid already on, but just in case, if you do need to remove this, make sure you hold it down because it's under spring tension, so as you loosen those screws, it'll want to come back, so just hold that so it doesn't flop. But yeah, you pull that off, it will expose those screws right there, and they are just more of those little 7/32 headed screws, just like that. There's 2 of them on each side. You remove those, and then the side panel should just lift right off. And to further complete the disassembly and to ease the cleaning of this, because ew, I'm going to go ahead and pull all these screws up here and take this upper trim panel out, and that'll make it a lot easier to paint it too. So that's really all I have left to do. Not much else exciting. I mean, it's actually pretty simple. I wish it was a little more smooth, me showing you how to disassemble it, but like I said earlier, I've never disassembled one of these before, but now I know. And now you guys know as well. It's really self-explanatory. You know, knowing where the little screws are hidden is the big thing, but anybody can take this apart. It is not difficult at all. But as a general rule, just for those of you that, you know, might like a little advice, if you're messing with interior trim on really anything, it should come apart pretty easily. And if it's not, you're probably doing something wrong. So don't force it hard, because if you do, you will crack it or just outright break it. And some of this stuff is not irreplaceable in the technical sense, but it's, for all intents and purposes, irreplaceable. You know, a lot of this stuff. So you just got to be careful. So with all that being done, I think that's going to do it for this video, really, because I was going to do more, but it's really, really windy outside. I have the shifter to disassemble. We can do that in this video still, and then I think I'll call it good, because I have to paint stuff. All this has to be cleaned. The paint's not going to be here for a while because today's the 14th of November. And so at best, that paint won't be here till the end of the week because today's a Tuesday. So I have to paint the dash too, and then I need to do a video on how to get the rest of the dash out so you guys can see that at least. But get this off, and what did I knock? Oh, screw. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get this separated. That'll make it easier to clean and paint. I don't think this needs any paint, but I'll go over colors and everything like that when I paint this, but I don't want to do that in this video. So I guess the next thing we'll do is I'll get the camera over here and we'll see about taking this shifter apart. You can watch me fumble around with that for a few minutes. All right, you may notice a background change. That is because it is a few days later from the footage you just saw. I started disassembling this and I got it broke down most of the way, but I took it in the house to clean it because when I got it in the light, I realized it was way more filthy than I thought. So I ended up having to disassemble it farther than I did in the original footage. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble it again to show you guys how it comes apart if you need to take it apart all the way. So I'm trying to put it back together now, and I'm having some problems with the detent spring in this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get it apart. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the covers, and this one here I broke some tabs off, so of course it should come apart easy. And now that I said that, it doesn't want to, but there we go. You want to get those apart first on both sides. And it helps if you come in the front here with a screwdriver. Get my screwdriver here. And just delicately, and I do mean delicately, get it started. And then come along the edges and pull it apart. Because Notice how those tabs are on there. It pulls straight out. There are also little rubber inserts in here. You can pull those out if you need to. All right, so now that we've got all that disassembled, the next thing you have to do to get it further apart is to take these two screws out here. They are very, very small, and they do have some Loctite on them. See if I can get you. Yeah, they're just real small screws. And they take about, what bit do I have in here? They take about a T15. I had another bit that fit them better, but I don't know where it is. I have misplaced it. It's somewhere on the bench. It may be under the towel, but I'm not about to upset all this stuff just to find it. So remove those carefully now. Okay. Now that you've got that out of the way, your handle here should be loose, but you can't pull it off all the way just yet because you have to disconnect the overdrive button, which, depending on how this is hooked up, oh, well, I didn't have it plugged in all the way, so it did come apart for us easy. So we can carefully pull that out, and we will address the rest of that shift handle later. Now, assuming that it's actually connected like it should be, the proper way to get this apart is we have to remove this cover. There are 4, make sure you can see, there are 4 of these, 2 on each side. So a couple of them you can get on with your fingers to get it started, but the rest of them you got to take a screwdriver to. And they should not come apart with much difficulty. So now you're starting to raise this up, right? Now you've got 2 options to take this thing apart. See if you can get in there. See this connector down here? This is what runs those 2 bulbs. You can kind of see them. That's what's run those 2 bulbs that are attached to your selector. And that's what illuminates it at night. So what you can do to save yourself a lot of headache is come in here and twist those bulbs to pop them loose. And then this bad boy comes right out. And we will revisit that in just a second because it also breaks down further. So next step, you're going to want to get your wiring off. There is here one of those stupid expanding, it's like one of those wing nut type deals. It's got the wings that expand out when you pop it through the hole it's supposed to go in. Take yourself a little pair of pliers, and you don't want to get all the way on top of it, but squeeze those tabs back and you can slide it through the hole like so. And now you've got all this. As a quick aside, on these little connectors right here, if you want to get them apart, you want to come in through the side because they're split, and you want to work a small screwdriver up in here. There is a tang on the male end of these connectors. If you get your screwdriver in like that, you should be able to raise up gently. You don't want to break these, but you should be able to get on that tang with your screwdriver and pry up, and it'll push this out to disconnect those. Now, be very careful with these bulbs that you do not break them. I don't know if they can be replaced or not. Everywhere I've looked for a shifter, they're either discontinued, out of stock, or an entire assembly. I don't think anything in this is supposed to be serviceable. Now, if you want, at this time, you can also come here to this, pull it all the way out, just so it's not flopping all over the place. Another thing you can do, and this is supposed to be the detent spring, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I got it back in right or not, but on the back side there, you twist it to just the right spot, and it'll pull out. But each one of those little tabs there, one's larger, one's smaller, so you've got to orient this the right way or it won't come out. I got to have it down here to mess with. Maybe I had it the right way the first time. I did. So you can pull these 2 pieces out, and again, throw that on the ground, whatever. This spring, I'm not really sure how to get it back on there because what I believe it's supposed to do is come here and run the detent so that when you shift into a particular gear, you can feel it as you're shifting through the gears. The shifter will function without it, but when you get to anything past drive, third down to first gear, there's nothing really locking it in except the shift cable, which I don't know is the best idea. So now you're getting to the real fun part here. So at this stage, you can come in through this little hole, and there is a screw in there. That should be a T25, I think. You want to remove that screw. And, you may not be able to get to it. I can't get to it. May have to wait till later. Probably better if we do. But that screw will have to come out because that screw retains your brake interlock solenoid. So basically, when you want to shift into gear, this thing will not let you because it's a safety feature. It's on every vehicle. This safety feature, you have to press on the brake, which activates that solenoid there and releases that lock, and then you can press down and shift through your gears. So if your foot's not on the brake, you can't shift it into gear, which is nice, I guess, for safety, but if it ever quits working, then you are in trouble. You can't get it out of park. You can't, won't let you do it. I should clarify, you have to have your foot on the brake and the key has to be on for it to work. A lot of complex stuff there. So the next little bit that we can go ahead and do at this time, well, no, we'll leave the rest of it. All right, next step, there's a pin right here, okay? You see there's an end here, and there's another end there. It runs through here, okay? So to drive that pin out, you're going to want to punch, all right? This is just a 5/32 pin punch, and I got plenty of room. You could probably get in here with a 1/4 inch punch, but this side here with these little tabs in it, it's the rounded end of the pin because the pin's tapered. You want to drive it that way. You want to drive the flat end out. So, and it does take a little bit of effort, but it's not bad. So once you get that taper free, you come over here, pull it right out, and you can see there's a rounded end. It looks like a bullet almost. This is the end you want to tap on and drive it out. Now the pin only goes in one way. You can't put it in backwards. So now that you have that out of there, what you can do is come in here and pick up on this, and it does take a little bit of effort, but it does slide out. You just have to get her broke free, and it should slide right out because it's a firm snap type fit. There. So now you've got your base, which I have since cleaned. It was pretty gross. And so now you've got the rest of your shifter assembly. If you want to take it down the rest of the way, then there's that screw you got to take out. Well, what size is that then? If it's not that, it's probably a T20, which I don't actually have. That's the one I lost. So let me see if I can find that real quick, and then we'll finish. Wait, what's this? That was a 15. That T15 may work. You should have a T20. I'm not very happy. I lost that damn bit. But that's what happens around here. So pull that screw out. Don't lose it. Now you're going to want to take a little screwdriver. Right here is a little tab that you'll want to push down on, and releasing that tab will allow you to pull forward on this interlock solenoid and get it out of the way. Just like that. Now, keep in mind. Okay, now, I forgot, before you do that, there are wires that go back here to this connector. And, sorry, this connector is held on the inside by another one of those stupid wing nut rivet things. And honestly, in my opinion, it's easier to get in there with your fingers than it is a pair of pliers and break that doodad loose. So if you pull on the connector, if you pull out on it and you come in with your finger or a screwdriver, either one, and you shove one of those wings in, then it will kind of lock into place because you're trying to pull it out, and then you can come around to the other side and do the same thing. That's the theory anyway. And then once you get it started, it comes out. So now you can come back to your brake interlock solenoid here. Don't stab your hand. Okay. You can release that. There's also one more of those little tiny expanding rivets down here that holds the rest of that wire assembly in. Now this little, I'm going to call it a detector. I don't know if that's actually what it is. There's a little tab right there that retains it right off the end of my thumb. Pull that back and it should slide right off. And now you have a completely removed wire assembly, which means if this thing is disgusting, like it was for me, you can clean it. You might be concerned about the spring down in here and whether or not it needs to be re-greased. You can if you want, but I washed it in some pretty heavy-duty degreaser, and it's still got plenty of grease and stuff on it. So you could give a little extra. If you had a syringe, you could do that. But there you go. That's taken down all the way. Now we just have a couple more things here. Let's start with this. This is pretty simple. There are, gotta find them here. This is 2 pieces. Okay? So pretty much you just pry on here and down here. You can get them to release. And then, oh, yep. There's a couple here as well. Right there. Ouch. And on the other side, got that one too. Just kind of have to work them because they want to snap back into place. And there you go. Now you've separated these two. I don't know what this thing does, but you need to put it back. And then this is the little dot that goes over these here on your selector. Okay. And then when your handle is all the way through in this hole, it'll move everything into position like it's supposed to. So you can disassemble that. Now this handle here, last little bit you can kind of do to it is first pull that bottom part out of the way, get in here, get your overdrive button out. Now you're left with this. Okay, you should be able to pull this bottom part out and it should kind of twist on top. It's gotta get the camera to focus there. You can see how that is, but interestingly enough, if you look at this right here, it can't slide on that way. It can only come off this way. But trying to slide it off doesn't work. So you about have to go to the bottom to start it, and then it should just kind of twist off at the top, and it hasn't broken anything. So then the final thing you can do is There's a pin right here that holds this handle. Hold it in. Push on that little knob with your finger. That little plastic pin comes right out. And then you can come back here with your thumb and push that in, or it'll just pop out the bottom. And there's a spring, and you can disassemble all that too. So if you need to take your shifter all the way apart to clean it, that is how you do it. And just be careful not to pinch your wires, break your connectors, anything like that. And then when you put it all back together, just reverse of removal, or I forgot the word, it escapes me. But regardless, when you put it all back together, I hope that you have luck with your detent spring, because for the life of me, I can't figure it out. So I'll have to deal with that. But I hope that helps you if you need to disassemble it. The shifter, you are able to, and as long as you're careful, you shouldn't break anything. So that's how you do that. Now, you guys can go back to the rest of the video. Well, ladies and gentlemen, everything has been as fully disassembled as I care to disassemble it. Pretty well broken down into all of the subassemblies. This is not getting put in water. It'll have to be cleaned up kind of delicately. That freaking stuff is just everywhere. I'm sure it looks gross on camera. It's definitely not the most gross thing I've ever had to do. I've certainly messed with more disgusting things. Rotting grain, dead animals, stuff like that. But this is still pretty freaking disgusting. So we'll get it all cleaned up. It got everywhere. It's almost like a glue that holds everything together. Not that this needed it, but, So we'll get all of the, nasty grossness cleaned up off camera. And then when the paint shows up, I'll have the dash out. So I'm going to try and do a video on removing the dash from the vehicle, but it's got to be less windy than it is right now. So with everything disassembled here, I'm going to get my part numbers, and then I'll, go in. I'm pretty much done for today. Cross all these numbers and make sure they're still valid and all that, see what I can get. Now, I will note that this piece here on the driver's side where that crack is at, it is worse than I thought. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to reinforce it. I might take a strip of just whatever and JB weld it on the inside where it's not going to interfere with anything, but it'll help give it a little extra strength so we don't break it. But we'll just have to see how that works out. For now, everything being disassembled, the only thing left to do is clean it, paint it, and put it back together. But that'll be a separate video. So I hope you guys found this useful. I know it was but it should give you a general idea on how to get this stuff out and disassemble it if you need to. If you need to clean it, you can then do it this way. It is not hard. It breaks down pretty easy. Just take your time, and you will definitely 100% need a 7/32 socket. You will have to have that. There is not a metric equivalent. There's only that. What a stupid size, though. There's a bunch of these little 7/32 bolts in here. So you'll definitely want that. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here before I keep rambling on and repeating myself. Appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and I'll be back. Almost forgot the center console lid is still sitting here. It's not too bad. It's a little, rough right there where people put their elbows, but it's not, it's gross down in there, but I'll pull the hinge out and it'll be fine. And then the wiring harness is sitting in there. Not going to do much with it, just clean up the connectors a little bit so they're not so sticky, and I'll run fresh conduit over everything. I've got, a million miles of the stuff in here, and I've got some 1/4 inch down there. I think I have some 3/8 laying around somewhere. I wish now I had bought 3/8 conduit instead of just 1/2 and 1/4. But hindsight's 20/20. So that's it. I'll get on now. Thanks, guys.